Good day, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Learnings. I am May S. Lorilla from Tanay North National High School, your math teacher for today. Today, we will be having the lesson 1 of Mathematics 10, quarter 4. In this lesson, we will learn about the measures of position of ungrouped data, which are anchored with the following learning competencies. First, illustrate the following measures of position, quartile, decile, and percentile. Next, calculate a specified measures of position, example the 90th percentile of a set of data, and solve problems involving measures of position. Before we proceed to our new lesson, do learning task 1 on page 1 of your module. Find the middle value or median in the following set and write the answer on the space provided. You will be given 2 minutes to do the task. So prepare your answer sheet. If you have your answer sheet in your side, so timer, 2 minutes starts now. Time's up. Let's check your work. So check your own work. The answer for number 1 is -1. Number 2, 3.5. Number 3, 25. Number 4, 79. And number 5, 739. Okay? Did you get 5? Did you get it all correct? Okay? So, how was your experience in the learning task 1? Did you finish on time? Did you reflect on some questions related to median? Like, how did you find the median of a set, of the set of data? Na-recall ba paano nakukuha ang median? And what does the median represent in the distribution? Yan yung ilang sa mga tanong na maaaring ma-recall ninyo in this given task. So, now let's review. Let's review some information about median you learned from the previous grade level. So, what is median? Median is a number that measures the center of the data. You can think of the median as the middle value, but it does not actually have to be one of the observed values. It also a number that separates ordered data into halves. Half the values are the same number or smaller than the median, and half the values are the same number or larger. So for example, consider the following teacher's regular load: 68, 76, 78, 83, 87, 89, 95. As you observe, the teacher's load or the teacher's regular load is written from smallest to the largest number. So, kung naka-arrange na siya from smallest to largest, we can determine the median by counting the number of data included in the set. So, we have 7 data. So, the middle value of the 7 data is our median. So, the middle value is 83. So, our median is 83. Since we have an odd numbers of data or elements in the set, we can determine that the center or the middle value will be our median. Another example, consider the following data of learners' grade: 79, 77, 71, 90, 73, 84, 96, 83. As you observe, the data is not written from smallest to the largest. So you have to order them from smallest to largest. So we have 71, 73, 77, 79, 83, 84, 90, and 96. So how many values or numbers do we have? Since there are 8 numbers or observations, the median is between the 4th value and the 5th value. So the 4th value is 79 and the 5th value is 83. So to find the median, add the 2 values and divide it by 2. So 79 plus 83 divided by 2. So we have 79 plus 83 is 162 and divided by 2. So our median is 81. The median is 81. Half of the values are smaller than 81 and half of the values are larger than 81 since 81 is our median. So, medyo natandaan ba natin ang median? Remember, median is the center of the data or the middle value. And when we say center or middle, it pertains to location or position. Position yung ating i-discuss. Okay, part ng ating lesson ang position. Statisticians often talk about the position of a value relative to other values in a set of data. So in this lesson, we're going to focus on measures of positions. Measures of position determine the position of a single value in relation to other values in a sample or a population set or data set. It gives us a way to see where a certain data point or values falls in a sample or distributions. These measures would help us know how a score fits into the data, how it compares the other scores in the data, or even how it compares to another score in another data set. A measure of position can tell us whether a value is about the average or whether it is unusually high or low. Measures of positions are used for quantitative data that falls on some numerical scales. Sometimes measures can be applied to ordinal values, those variables that have an order like first, second, fifth, and so on. Measures of position also show how two values from different distribution or measurement scales compare. For example, a person's height measured in centimeter and weight measured in kilogram can be compared once the relative position are computed. There are a lot of measures of position, but the most common types of measures of position are quartiles, deciles, and percentiles. So in this video, we're going to focus on quartiles of ungrouped data. So we will learn how to illustrate quartile of ungrouped data, calculate the quartile of ungrouped data, and solve problems involving quartile of ungrouped data. So, what is quartile? Quartiles are the score points which divided a distribution into 4 equal parts. Let's say this rectangle represents a set of data and written from lowest to highest. So, if we're going to divide the distribution into 4 equal parts, each data set has 3 quartiles, such as Q sub 1, Q sub 2, and Q sub 3, or the quartile 1, the quartile 2, and quartile 3. So, if it's divided into 4 equal parts, therefore, each part contains a 25% of the data. So, meron tayong 3 quartiles. So, we're going to discuss each quartile. First, the first quartile or the Q sub 1. It is a number such that at most 1/4 or 25% of the data are smaller in value than Q sub 1, and at most 3/4 or 75% are larger than Q sub 1. As you observe, Q sub 1 is located wherein 25% of the data is less than the first quartile, while the other 25% or in a total of 75% is greater than Q sub 1. There are 75% of the data which is higher or greater than or equal to Q sub 1. So the first quartile or the Q sub 1 is also called as the lower quartile since it is located nearer to the lowest value. Another quartile, Q sub 2, or the middle quartile or the second quartile. It is a number such that at most 1/2 or 50% of the data are below and above in value than Q sub 2. As you observe the location or the position of the second quartile, it is in the middle. Okay? So, middle of the data set. So, there are 25% or the total of 50% of the data is lower than Q sub 2 or the second quartile, and another 50% of the data is higher or equal to Q sub 2. And second quartile is also known as the median or the middle quartile. Okay? Since Q sub 2 or the second quartile is in the middle. So, it is also equal to the median. And next is the third quartile, the Q sub 3 or the third quartile. It is a number such that at most 3/4 or 75% of the data are smaller in value than Q sub 3, and at most 1/4 or 25% of the data are larger than Q sub 3. Looking at the diagram, the position of the Q sub 3 or the third quartile, there are 25% of the data which are greater than or equal to the Q sub 3. And there are 75% that is lower than or less than to Q sub 3. And third quartile is also known as the upper quartile. So there are 3 quartiles in a given set of data, divided into 4 equal parts, but there are 3 quartiles. Okay? So, when observation in a set, how can we identify the second quartile, the third quartile, or the first quartile? Okay? So, we can determine the Q sub 1 as the n plus 1 over 4th observation. So, we can calculate or we can compute the location of the Q sub 1 or the first quartile using this formula. N plus 1 over 4, where n is the number of observation in a set or the number of values in a given set of data. While we can determine the Q sub 2 as the n plus 1 over 2. So, we can compute the location of the Q sub 2 using n plus 1 divided by 2. And the third quartile or Q sub 3 as 3 times the quantity n plus 1 over 4 observation. So, yun yung kailangan nating tandaan kung paano natin i-compute yung location nung first quartile, second quartile, and third quartile. Okay? May tanong ba dun sa tatlo? So, madali lang naman siya matandaan. Ang Q sub 1 at Q sub 3 ay hawig ang kanilang formula, n plus 1 over 4. But, in quartile 3, you have to multiply it by 3. Okay? While, the second quartile, it is not divided by 4, but it is divided by 2. Okay? So, another that we can learn in quartiles is the difference between the upper quartile, Q sub 3, and the lower quartile, Q sub 1. So, in a set of data, it is called the interquartile range. So, the interquartile range is the difference between the upper quartile and the lower quartile. So, you're just going to subtract the Q sub 3 and Q sub 1 to determine the value of the interquartile range. Okay? But we're going to focus on computing the quartiles. Okay? Are you ready to learn more about the quartiles? So, first, how are we going to determine the quartiles? The first quartile, the second quartile, and the third quartile. So, we have to focus on steps. So, we have 3 steps. Step 1, arrange the data in ascending order. Lagi nating i-arrange ang ating data set in ascending order. I-ayos muna natin yung data. Remember, from lowest to highest yung ating data, or from the smallest number to the largest number. Then, focus on the step 2, calculate the kth position using the appropriate formula. So, compute natin kung saan located yung position. Calculate natin yung position ng ating quartile. Saan ba nakaposition si quartile 1, si quartile 2, at si quartile 3 in the data set. Okay? So, gagamit ka ng appropriate formula na na-discuss natin sa sa unang part. So, para sa Q sub 1 or the first quartile, n plus 1 divided by 4. Sa second quartile, n plus 1 divided by 2. And in the third quartile, 3 times n plus 1 divided by 4. Okay? Then, step 3, locate the value of the specified measure of position in the given set of data. So, na-identify mo na kung anong position nung mga quartiles. Ngayon, tukuyin mo naman. So, ilocate mo siya sa mismong data set na nasa step 1 mo. At pag na-locate mo na, yun na yung value mismo ng iyong quartile na hinahanap. Okay? Yung number mismo sa data set, yun yung value ng mismong quartile natin. So, para mas maunawaan natin, let's proceed with an example. Okay? So, let's have example number 1. A group of learners in Tanay North National High School obtained the following scores in mathematics quiz. 74898957653. Find q sub 1, q sub 2, and q sub 3. Remember, we have 3 steps. First step is arrange the data in ascending order. So, i-arrange lang natin yung data natin. So, we have 3, 4, 5, 5, 6, 7, 7, 8, 8, 9, 9. And this data gives us the least and the greatest number. Okay? So, the least value in the data is 3 and the greatest value in the data is 9. So, smallest value is 3, highest value is 9, and counting the number of data or numbers we have, we can determine the value of n. So, there are 11 values in the data, therefore, n is 11. Check pa rin natin. So, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So, in step 1, you can determine, after arranging the data in ascending order, madedetermine mo na yung number of values or number of data na meron ka. So, 11. So, 11 or the value of n is important to identify in step 1 since gagamitin natin yan sa step 2. And our is calculate the position of the following using the formula. And in this problem, ang kailangan natin ay ang first quartile, second quartile, and the third quartile. So, unahin natin ang ating first quartile. So, paano natin siya i-compute? So, using the formula, n plus 1 divided by 4. So, substitute natin yung nakuha nating value na n sa step 1, which is 11. So, 11 plus 1 is 12, and divided by 4, that is 3. Okay, so as you observe in the formula, in the solution, ang una lang na bago ay yung n. Then, kinompute muna yung ating numerator. Then, at saka pa lang natin in-apply ang division to remove the fraction. Okay? So, it means that our q sub 1 is located as the third observation of the data. Okay? So, if it's in the third observation, balikan natin yung ating data. So, ito yung ating data sa step 1. Naka-arrange from smallest to the largest number. So, the third observation. Okay? So, na-compute natin na q sub 1 is 3. So, ibig sabihin, count tayo. 1, 2, 3. So, the third observation is 5. Therefore, the lower quartile of q sub 1, which is the third observation, is 5. This means that the 25% of the learner score is lower than or equal to 5. Okay? So, that is our first quartile. Ganun lang kadali, di ba? Next, tapos na tayo sa q sub 1. Next naman nating hahanapin ay ang ating q sub 2. So, natatandaan nyo ba ang formula natin sa ating q sub 2? So, step 2 pa rin tayo. Compute na natin ay ang ating q sub 2. Okay, so q sub 2 or the second quartile, ang gagamitin naman natin ay n plus 1 over 2. So, n plus 1 over 2, ano ulit ang ating n? Sa step 1, 11. So, substitute lang natin siya sa value ng n. So, 11 plus 1 divided by 2. So, we have 6. 11 plus 1 is 12. And 12 divided by 2 is 6. It means, balik tayo sa step 1 natin sa ating dataset. 6th observation. So, bilang tayo pang-anim daw. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So, it means our 6th observation, wherein it is the second quartile, is 7. The middle quartile or the second quartile, q sub 2, which is the 6th observation, is 7. This means that 50% of the learner's score is lower than or equal to 7. Or, 50% of the learner's score is greater than or equal to 7. Okay, ito yun. Dito yun kapag itong interpretation na ito ang kukunin natin. Okay? So, nasolve na natin yung pangalawa, the second quartile. Next, step 2 pa rin tayo, pero ang hahanapin naman natin ay ang third quartile. Okay? Calculate pa rin tayo ng position. Using the formula, Q sub 3 is equals to 3 times n plus 1 over 4. So, ganun ulit. Substitute lang natin yung value ng n. So, we have 11 plus 1, 12 times 3, 36 divided by 4 is 9. Okay? So, balik ulit tayo doon sa ating data in ascending order, pang 9th observation. So, bilang ulit tayo mula sa umpisa, pang siyam naman. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It means 8 is our Q sub 3. So, the upper quartile or Q sub 3, which is the 9th observation, is 8. This means that 75% of the learner's score is lower than or equal to 8. Ito yung 75% na tinutukoy. Or, yung 25% na gamitin natin, 25% of the learner's score is greater than or equal to 8. Okay, that is our step 2. Next, solve na natin ang ating Q sub 1, Q sub 2, Q sub 3. Punta naman tayo sa ating step 3. Okay, for the step 3, next is the step 3. Locate the value of the specified measures of position in the given set of data. So, dito sa step na to, babalikan natin yung ating naging set of data sa step 1. Yung nakasulat from lowest to the largest value. Next, ilolocate naman natin dito sa set of data na ito yung mga value ng ating quartiles na na-compute sa step 2. So, hinanap natin sa step 2 si quartile 1, quartile 2, and the third quartile. So, as we solve, for the first quartile is located in the third observation. So, our third observation is 5. Next, we find the second quartile. So, it is located in the sixth position of our data. So, our sixth observation or the number in the sixth position is 7. So, our second quartile is 7. Next, we also solve for our third quartile. And the position of the third quartile is located in the 9th observation. So, in the 9th observation, ang ating third quartile and the value of the third quartile is 8. Okay. So, any question in our example number 1? Nasundan ba yung ating steps? So, tandaan, meron tayong 3 steps. First step, arrange the data from lowest to the highest value. Second step, compute for the kth position of our quartiles. And the third step is locate the value of the specified measures of position in the given set of data. Okay. So, I hope sana may natandaan kayo sa bawat step. Are you ready for another example? So, kung ready kayo sa another example, here is our example number 2. During the month of January, Tanay Municipal Health Office recorded the daily updates of number of new cases of COVID-19 in the municipality. The results are 12, 33, 55, 83, 16, 58, 131, 119, 96, 59, 34, 49, 46, 30, 18, 13, and 29. Find the lower quartile and upper quartile of the data. So, in this problem, we're going to solve for the first quartile and the third quartile. So, natatandaan nyo pa ba ang ating step? Okay, our step 1, arrange the data in ascending order. So, kunin natin yung data natin mula dun sa ating problem. And i-arrange natin ito sa lowest to the largest value. So, ito siya. Pag naka-arrange na siya. So, double check kung naka-arrange ba talaga yung ating data. So, kung naka-arrange, in this data, our lowest value is 12 and our highest value is 131. Okay? And how many values do we have? How many numbers we have in this problem? So, there are 17 values in the data, therefore, n is equal to 17. Okay? So, meron tayong 17 data. So, tandaan, ang ating n ay 17. Okay? Yun ang kailangan nating tandaan dahil ang gagamitin natin ay 17 sa step 2. Okay? Next step is calculate the position of the following using the formula. Since ang kailangan natin ay lower quartile and upper quartile, so we need to use the formula for the first quartile and the third quartile. So, to calculate the first quartile, dun muna tayo mag-focus. So, we're going to use Q sub 1 is equals to n plus 1 over 4. So, kung ano yung value ng n natin sa step 1, yun ang isa-substitute natin dito sa formula. So, our n is 17. So, 17 plus 1 divided by 4. Or, look at this solution. So, napalitan lang natin or nag-substitute lang tayo sa value ng n, which is 17. So, 17 plus 1 divided by 4. So, 17 plus 1 is equals to 18. And then divide by 4. So, we have 4.5. Look at our answer. Ang nakuha natin dito ay 4.5. 0.5. So, we have a decimal. So, if your observation is contains decimal or ang nakuha mo dito sa paggamit ng formula natin ay decimal numbers, so, hindi natin makikita siya directly as in the fourth observation. Kasi 4.5. So, lagpas siya sa 4. So, kung babalikan natin yung data, hindi tayo tutugma or hindi tayo tatapat dun sa pinakang 4. So, ibig sabihin, ang ating Q sub 1 ay lagpas sa fourth value. Pero hindi ka lalagpas sa fifth value. So, 4.5. So, kapag nakakuha tayo ng decimal in applying the formula to identify the position of our quartiles, kailangan nating gumamit ng another formula. So, pwede nating masolve ito using the general method, the linear interpolation, and Mendenhall and Sinchich method. So, kahit alin dyan, pwede mo magamit. So, other books or pwede nyo mapanood sa YouTube ay pwedeng gamitin ang general method, pwede rin ang linear interpolation, and Mendenhall and Sinchich method. So, dito sa ating video, magpo-focus tayo sa linear interpolation. So, how are we going to apply the linear interpolation? So, para ma-apply natin ang linear interpolation, intindihin muna natin kung ano ba ang linear interpolation. Linear interpolation is very useful in finding the quartile, deciles, and percentiles as sometimes the quartile, decile, or percentile point is between, between two numbers. In order to get the exact value, we will need to interpolate the data that we have. So, mag-i-interpolate tayo dito. Remember, kapag may decimal, ibig sabihin, our quartile, decile, or percentile is in between two numbers. Okay? Tsaka tayo mag-a-apply ng interpolation. Okay? So, how are we apply linear interpolation? Linear interpolation is the simplest method of finding a value between 2 points. It is given by the following. Lower value plus decimal part times the higher value minus the lower value. Okay. So, another formula to think or nagagamitin natin kapag ang ating position ay in between two numbers or ang ating nakuhang position ay may decimal numbers. So, tandaan lang natin, lower value plus decimal part times the higher value minus lower value. So, may tatlong fundamental operation tayo narinig. Plus, times, minus. So, we're going to add, multiply, and subtract in linear interpolation. So, para mas maintindihan natin yung linear interpolation, gamitin natin ito dito sa example na to. Okay? So, balikan natin yung ating sa step 2, so we're going to apply linear interpolation for first quartile. So, ano yung na-solve natin na Q sub 1? Q sub 1 is 4.5 observation. So, it means, kung babalikan natin ang ating data, sa step 1, hahanapin natin yung ating value ng Q sub 1 in between ng 4th observation and 5th observation. Kasi 1, 2, 3, 4. So, ito yung 4th observation natin. Pero dahil may decimal tayo dito sa ating na-solve na location, so lalagpas tayo sa 18. So, 4th observation natin. So, ang ating data or ang ating exact value ng Q sub 1 ay in between the 4th observation and 5th observation. Okay? So, ang ating lower value is 18 at ang ating higher value is 29. At kung tatandaan ninyo ang ating formula, kailangan natin ng lower value, ng higher value, at ng ating decimal part. So, natukoy natin at ang ating lower value ay 18 at ang ating higher value ay 29. So, yung ating decimal part ay makukuha natin mismo dun sa ating na-solve, dito sa 4.5. 4.5 and the decimal part is 0.5. Yun ang gagamitin nating value. Okay, ano ulit yung ating lower value? Siya yung ating pang 4th observation. Ang ating decimal part ay 0.5 times ang ating higher value ay ang ating pang 5th observation minus sa lower value natin na 4th observation. Okay. Now, substitute na natin. So, ang ating lower value is 18. Ating decimal part is 0.5. Then, higher value is 29. Okay? So, na-substitute nyo na siya. So, kapag na-substitute nyo na yung mga values na kailangan ninyo, simulan ninyo sa subtraction. Yung nasa loob ng bracket or ng parenthesis. So, dito lang muna kayo gagalaw. Para masunod pa rin natin yung PEMDAS na tinatawag natin. So, may parenthesis, may bracket, yun muna yung tatanggalin natin. So, 29 minus 18, so that is 11. So, as you observe sa process, ang nabago lang ay yung nasa loob ng bracket. Nag-subtract muna. Then, tanggalin pa rin yung bracket para matanggal yun. Perform multiplication. So, 0.5 times 11 is 5.5. Okay, ang nabago pa rin ay yung nasa bandang may bracket or nasa bandang kanan. Okay, so next is add. 18 plus 5.5 is 23.5. So our exact value of the first quartile or the lower quartile is 23.5. Remember, pag na-substitute nyo na yung tamang values dito sa ating formula, ang una mong i-apply na operation is subtract, multiply, and then add. Maganda rin kasing matandaan nyo yun. Subtract, multiply, add. Okay? SMA. Madaling matandaan. SMA. Okay. Therefore, ang nakuha natin ay 23.5. This means that 25% of the new cases is lower than or equal to 23.5. Okay. So, that is the possible one or possible interpretation of this data. Okay, na-solve na natin ang ating first quartile or lower quartile. Ngayon, nasa step 2 pa rin tayo. Calculate the position of the following using the formula. But we're going to apply step 2 for the third quartile or the upper quartile. So, tandaan nyo ba ang ating formula sa upper quartile? For the upper quartile, we're going to use the formula Q sub 3 is equals to 3 times the quantity n plus 1 over 4. Nabago ang formula, pero ang n na gagamitin pa rin natin ay 17. So, substitute pa rin tayo. Substitute tayo sa value ng ating n, at ang n pa rin natin gagamitin ay 17. Okay? So, ang nabago lang dito sa ating computation is 17 sa unang part. So, 17 plus 1 is 18. 18 times 3 is 54. And 54 divided by 4 is 13.5. Oh no, meron ulit tayong decimal. At kapag may decimal, ano ang dapat natin gawin? I-apply natin ang linear interpolation because of the 0.5. Okay, so na-compute mo 13.5. Apply agad tayo ng linear interpolation. So, for the linear interpolation, 13.5. So, balikan natin ang ating data. Ibig sabihin, ang ating third quartile ay located pagkalagpas ng 13th observation. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So, ang ating third quartile ay located between 59 and 83. Okay. So, ang kailangan natin ay LB, DP, and HB. Dito pa lang, kita na natin kung ano yung kailangan nating value. 59 and 83. So, our lower value or LV is 59, while 83 is our higher value or HB. And ang ating DP or the decimal part, dito siya manggagaling dun sa na-solve ninyo. So, 0.5. So, ang ating LV is the 13th observation at ang ating higher value is our 14th observation, which is 83. Okay? So, substitute na tayo. So, that will be 59 plus 0.5 times 83 minus 59. So, 59 ang ating lower value, 83 is our higher value, and 0.5 is our decimal part. Okay? Natandaan nyo ba yung sinabi ko sa inyo dapat yung alalahanin kapag nakapag-substitute na kayo? Subtract, multiply, add. Ganun natin, i-apply ang operation sa linear interpolation. So, subtract muna natin yung nasa loob ng bracket or ng parenthesis. 83 minus 59 is 24. Nakapag-subtract ka na. Next is multiply. 0.5 times 24. And that is 12. Next, nakapag-subtract, multiply, add. 59 plus 12 is 71. So, our third quartile is 71, which is located in between the 13th and 14th observation. This means that the 75% of the new cases is lower than or equal to 71. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, ito yung ating, dito located yung ating third quartile. Lahat ng value, 75% of the values or the number of cases is equal or lower than 71. So, lahat yon na nandito sa bandang kaliwa natin. Okay? So, na-solve na natin yung ating upper quartile. Ganun din ang ating lower quartile. So, nagawa na natin step 1 and then step 2. We can now proceed for the step 3. And for the step 3, Locate the value of the specified measures of position in the given set of data. Balikan natin yung data natin sa step 1. So, ito siya. Ilolocate natin yung ating mga values. So, dalawa lang yung kailangan nating ilocate. The first quartile and the third quartile. The lower quartile and the upper quartile. Okay? So, our lower quartile is located in between 18 and 29. So, our Q sub 1 is 23.5. As you observe, paano mo masasabi kung tama naman yung sagot mo? In between 18 and 29. 23.5 is greater than 18 but less than 29. Check mo rin yun kung talagang tutugma yung value mo doon sa position niya. Okay, next is the third quartile. And third quartile is located in between 59 and 83. And the value of our third quartile or the upper quartile is 71. And remember, 71 is greater than 59 but less than 83. Okay, so macha-check nyo rin kung tama rin yung mga values ng quartiles na nasolve ninyo. Naintindihan ba ang ating example number 2? Okay, may tanong ba? So, naintindihan na ba kung paano i-calculate, i-locate ang ating mga quartiles? May tanong pa ba tungkol sa quartiles? Sure kayo, wala na kayong tanong. Okay. Remember the steps. Okay, ito yung mga dapat natin tatandaan at huwag kakalimutan in solving measures of position of ungrouped data. We have 3 steps. First, arrange the data in ascending order, lowest to the largest number, or lowest to highest, smallest to the largest number. Step 2, calculate the Kate position using appropriate formula. So, meron tayong 3 formula in locating or in calculating the Kate position of the quartiles. Meron tayong for first quartile, n plus 1 divided by 4. For the second quartile, n plus 1 divided by 2. And for the third quartile, 3 times n plus 1 divided by 4. Okay, so wag kakalimutan niyon. But, kapag ang nakuha mong value using those formula has a decimal number, gagamit kayo ng linear interpolation na kung saan ang formulang dapat nyo naman tandaan dito ay lower value plus decimal part times higher value minus lower value. Okay? And, of course, the step 3, locate the value of the specified measures of position in the given set of data. So, kung naintindihan na yung mga examples natin at natatandaan nyo na rin ang mga sumusunod na steps, now you can proceed answering learning task 2. So, please prepare your answer sheet para doon yung maisulat ang inyong sagot at inyong solution. So, you're going to do learning task 2, solve this problem. Okay, yung letter A muna. Mrs. Ortiz held a Scrabble competition among selected students in grade 10 silver. The following are the scores of the participants after the event. Given yung numbers natin, find the following, then interpret the result. You're going to find lower quartile, second quartile, then upper quartile. So, in this learning task number 2, you will be given 3 minutes. Okay? So, katabi nyo na ba ang inyong answer sheet? May katabi na ba kayong ballpen? Ready na ba kayo? Pwede kayong gumamit naman ng calculator kung kinakailangan ninyo. Remember, you have to apply the 3 steps. Okay? Yung 3 steps kailangan ninyong ipakita para makita ko kung nasundan ninyo yung ating lesson. Okay? So, are you ready? Timer starts Now, okay, time's up. So, check your work honestly. So, check nyo kung yung solution ninyo ay nahahawig or kapareho nitong mga step by step na aking ipakikita. Okay? So, step 1. Arrange your data in ascending order. So, kung ganito yung inyong naging sagot. Check nyo kung ganito yung data, ganito yung pagkakasunod ng data na na-solve ninyo. I hope pareho tayo ng naging sagot. At mula dito, possible ang nakuha nyong value ng n ay 10. Because 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. We have 10 numbers. So, ang mahalaga sa atin sa step 1 is the arranged numbers or arranged data and value ng ating n. In step 2, so let's calculate for the Q sub 1, Q sub 2, Q sub 3 or the first quartile, second quartile, third quartile. So first, focus muna tayo sa first quartile. Okay? So sa first quartile, ganito dapat yung masosolve ninyo. Okay? So the location of the Q sub 1 is 2.75. Since there is a decimal number, 0.75 is the decimal part. So, gagamit kayo ng linear interpolation. And after applying the linear interpolation, the value or the exact value of Q sub 1 is 26.25. And the possible interpretation is the lower quartile or Q sub 1, which is the 2.75th observation, this means that 25% of the students' score is lower than or equal to 26.25. So, I hope yung solution ninyo ay kahawig na kahawig nito or eksaktong-eksakto nito. Kung hindi man kahawig nito at ang pinakang mahalaga ninyong titingnan diyan ay yung position na 2.75 at yung exact value na 26.25. That is for the first quartile. Next, for the second, we have Q sub 2 is equals to n plus 1 over 2 at ang mahanap ninyo dito na position ay 5.5. In between the fifth value and the sixth value. May decimal pa rin kayong nakita or na-solve, mag-a-apply ka pa rin ng linear interpolation. And after applying linear interpolation, ang exact value ng iyong second quartile is 30.5. Okay? So, ganito na hawig ang inyong interpretation. This means that 50% of the students' score is lower than or equal to 30.5. And for the third quartile, gagamit pa rin kayo ng formula, yung appropriate sa kanya, 3 times the quantity n plus 1 over 4, at masosolve mo ay 8.25. May decimal pa rin, so mag-a-apply ka pa rin ng linear interpolation. And after the application of linear interpolation, ang exact value ng ating upper quartile is 35.25. Then, this means that 75% of the students' score is lower than or equal to 35.25. So, ganyan na hawig yung inyong answer. Then, of course, step 3, locate natin. So, balikan natin yung sagot natin sa step 1, yung data, and then ilolocate mo lang yung position ng iyong first quartile, second quartile, at ng third quartile. Ganito lang, nahawig lang yung iyong sagot. Okay? So, nagawa nyo ang inyong learning task 2. Kung nahawig ang iyong sagot, thumbs up tayo dyan. It's a good sign na may naintindihan kayo dito sa ating video lesson. So, I hope may naintindihan kayo, pero huwag kakalimutan yung tatandaan ng ating steps. Arrange the data in ascending order. Step 2, calculate the Kate position using the appropriate formula. And step 3, locate the value of the specified measures of position in the given set of data. Yan lang yung dapat mong tandaan bukod sa formulang dapat mong alalahanin. So, I hope may naintindihan kayo dito sa ating video lesson. At para sa inyong task, sa inyong gawain, do learning task 3. You have to solve the problem. During the PE class, Sir Omido asked Grayton Bronze to provide their weight information. The data below are the weight given by the 15 learners who comply. So, yun yung mga pangalan na nasa kanan. Okay? Illustrate or compute, calculate for the Q sub 1 or the lower quartile and Q sub 3 or the upper quartile. So, use the data dun sa table natin or sa box natin. Then, solve for Q sub 1 and Q sub 3. So, yung sagot ninyo dito, ilalagay ninyo sa inyong answer sheet. And then, ipapasa yan sa akin on the submission. Okay? Ako yung personal na mag-check ng inyong sagot kung nasundan ninyo yung step-by-step na naituro natin dito sa video. Okay? So, may tanong ba sa ating lesson sa video na ito? So, kung wala naman, it's time to play and learn. Okay? So, use the Tanay Math Venture game. Okay? So, familiar na kayo sa board game na to? Okay? Applicable din siya sa lesson natin ngayon na measures of position. But, babawasan natin ng konti yung cards natin. From 52, may tatanggalin tayo para ma-practice ninyo yung lesson natin dito sa video na ito. Okay? So, I hope mag-enjoy kayo sa paglalaro ng Tanay Math Venture game. So, pwedeng ang kalaro nyo dito ay kasama nyo lang sa bahay or kung may kaklase kayo or ka-grade level kayo, ay pwede nyo rin yayain na maglaro ng Tanay Math Venture Game para pareho kayong mapapractice dito sa ating lesson. So, I hope you enjoy this video lesson and hoping you will enjoy this game. So, thank you for watching and happy learning! Goodbye!